Hello everybody and welcome along to this particular edition of the Rebel Wide Ball, and probably the first time in a long time the COVID stories seem to be all in a positive vein. In terms of the vaccines, they appear to be going according to plan. There was no great stories in terms of side effects or anything like that, and the restrictions seem to be lifted at the rate of knots, if we could use that term. I noticed that last night that the GA announced that inter-county challenges can take place with immediate effect, and also that the minor and under-20 squads can go back training from next Monday. In actual fact, the GA themselves at Central Council level are going to bring out a fixture plan next week for competitions that weren't completed last year, which includes the All-Ireland under-20 hurling final where Cork are involved, and they will also bring out fixtures for the 2021 championship. So you'd imagine that everything was going well until the housing crisis decided to make a re-emergence back centre stage. And honestly, the more I do of these broadcasts, I realise how little I know about anything. And seemingly back in 2013, the government decided to bring in the outside financial houses, pension funds, cocoa funds, investor trusts, and it gave rise to another one of these acronyms that I must confess that I never heard of, and that is RETITs, where it was they called it the Real Estate Investor Trusts, and that brought in, the government probably realised that there was very few shillings hanging around the place, so these investors came in, and in return for building big apartment blocks in Dublin, student accommodation, there was massive tax breaks afforded to them. They didn't have to pay corporation tax. They didn't have to pay capital gain tax. And basically the only time that tax accrued to the central coffers was when maybe pension funds that were involved started making profits. All was going well. Some people were in the know about all of this. And then all of a sudden we had a story that was broken on Sunday by the Sunday Business Post, where one of these particular venture funds, or whatever they want to call them, called Roundhill Capital, where they purchased the majority of a housing estate in Maynooth, 135 out of 170 houses. I can imagine the people that had bought the other houses in that estate, they must be really impressed now to realise that all their neighbours are going to be renters. And then the same crowd, they bought up an entire estate of 12 houses in Leo Varadkar's constituency. So this has caused absolute consternation. Now, why it should, I'm not too sure, because seemingly all government parties were well up to speed on this. But anyway, the Housing Minister, Darragh O'Brien, maybe he was unknown up and out, that was all about Owen Murphy in the past. Well, this guy has come centre stage, and there's frantic attempts, I think, being made at this stage between the various ministers concerned to try and put a stop to this practice. I mean, like, it's absolutely ridiculous that these investors, maybe they were needed. I don't know enough about this to be quite honest with you, but the fact that they're stopping first-time buyers from purchasing houses in this country. Now, we've always had issues about trying to solve the housing problem, if you call it that. And strangely enough, I think Ireland are one of the countries that has the highest level of home ownership. But I would think that this story will bring some good, in that it brings housing back into the stage. But I would say that some of the government parties are probably saying they nearly prefer that if COVID was back in the agenda. I don't have any solutions to it, but I do think that if they're going to talk about these pension funds and all of that, and before anybody jump to conclusion and say, look, gee, why don't we have Irish investors? Well, when we had Irish developers doing it, they didn't make a great job of it either. It's not that long ago when, you could ring up an auctioneer, put a bid in a house, and you'd have your bid accepted, only get a phone call half an hour later that some other tomahawk was after coming in, and the auctioneer, who had the scruples of a tomcat, decided they'd take their offer. It was called gazumping, in case you have forgotten all of that. It certainly wasn't a good time. There's, like, new houses have to be built. I think somebody said about maybe writing into the Constitution that everybody should have a right to a house. I'm not too sure that that is the way to go about it either. But I would imagine that everybody should have the right to purchase an affordable home. One aspect of it, I suppose, from rural Ireland, I see a little bit of difficulty with, and maybe it's wearing my GA hat now, but like there are many magnificent GA clubs scattered right throughout this country that are providing, we said this before, magnificent facilities, social capital if you wish, and some of them are actually dying in their feet because of the fact that locals can't get planning permission to build houses on their own land. And whereas I don't want to sound like a rural politician, I do think that there's, you know, gains can be made here. And if all the stories, I mean, there's excellent planners and you need planning and we need regulations, but some of the stories that I hear about planners in this county aren't good, to be quite honest with you. So if there's a housing discussion, I think that you have to include the role of rural planners and people getting planning on their own sites. You know, like I've heard of people in very rural Ireland. I know a place back in South Kerry, I think there's some sort of an endangered species of snail down there, and you can't build houses in a particular valley. So I think all that needs to be looked at, and we definitely, I'm not saying we go back to the bungalow bliss of the 80s where bungalows were slapping up all over the place, but I do think that, you know, that a balance needs to be struck, and it is grand to have beautiful environment and views of the sea and all that. But, you know, I think this housing discussion now might be an opportunity. And if anybody thinks that a political party, that one political party is better than the others that solve it, well, we're on a losing track straight away. Anyway, that's our speech from the dock about housing. Let's back to maybe talk about something that we maybe should know something a little bit about, and that's Gaelic games and the Alliance National Hurling League commences this weekend. And as I said to you before, the Division 1A and the 1B, and that's where all the top counties in hurling will play. Division 1A, where Cork are involved with Waterford, Tip, Limerick, Galway and Westmeath. And Westmeath are going to be the whipping boys there. These games, which start next Sunday with Cork and Waterford, they play in Páirc Uí Chaoimh at 3:45. But for the next number of weeks, I think 6 weeks, Cork will play 5 matches. But all of these matches are only glorified challenge matches because there mightn't even be a league winner declared at the end of it. And as regards relegation, well, there'll be a relegation final. Westmeath will represent 1A. In Division 1B, it's slightly more complicated as to, there's one Munster county in there, Clare, and you've all the Leinster counties in terms of, well, I won't say all the Leinster council, but you have Kilkenny, Wexford, Dublin, Laois and Antrim. So Laois and Antrim would be the two teams there that will be fighting out to know which of them will reach the relegation final. So that's one aspect of it, but there's no doubt with the championship coming up so soon after that these games are very important. And from a Cork point of view, it'll be interesting, I suppose, to note the influence of Donal O'Grady, and stories coming from the camp would say that he's having a real positive influence thus far. He's kind of the performance coach, if you like, and, you know, he's a well-respected figure. And maybe he could be the person, the grain of salt, if you like, that would tilt the balance in favour of Cork. It's, you know, since 2005 is a long time to wait for an All-Ireland. This particular game next Sunday will be interesting from the point of view is that Waterford Stephen O'Keefe, their goalkeeper, has retired, as has Anthony Nass, so is probably one of the Collins brothers will get the start there. So, you know, over the next couple of weeks, we'll, you know, see had there been whether there will be any big changes to the Cork team. A number of the under-20 squad will obviously, you know, will be drafted into it. But, you know, some people point to the fact that, you know, there has to be more scoring forwards. Patrick Horgan has been the main scoring man, and whatever delightful hurler he is. But anyway, that's the story for the Alliance National League, and of course all of these games will be televised, which will be, you know, pleasing from a fan's point of view. Interesting to note as well that Micheál Martin said that maybe during the summer that there'll be some crowds that roll back into the stadium, which obviously is good news. The Cork County Board during the week they kind of gave provisional dates, well, I suppose accurate dates maybe in one sense, for the conclusion of the county championships that weren't played last year. I think that these dates are based on, even though nobody's probably saying that from county board level, are based on the expectancy that the Cork senior hurlers will exit stage left at All-Ireland quarter-final stage, which will be played on the August weekend, and a week earlier in Killarney, the Cork footballers will be beaten by Kerry. Maybe that won't happen, and that both Cork teams will get to the All-Ireland final. But anyway, another thing that's going to be happening this weekend is the new rules that are being brought in, particularly at hurling, and this is going to be interesting insofar as that, you know, pulling down of an opponent, deliberately pulling down an opponent, deliberately tripping an opponent, or dangerous use of the, careless use of the hurley will, inside the 20-metre line or inside the semicircle, will result in a penalty, and the fouling defender, if he's a defender, will be sent to the line for, is it 10 minutes? But it's going to be a big one for the referees. By the way, those rules are not going to come into club championship until 2022, and we say thanks be to God for that. But you can still hold on to the hurley or pull the jersey, and that's not a penalty. That's not a penalty. There's also changes to the advantage rule, and I think that has been cut down. So it'll be interesting to know how all of that will get on. Moving away from Gaelic games to soccer, and of course, after last Sunday's debacle at Old Trafford, where Manchester United supporters stormed the building, if you like, protesting against the Glaziers. And my God, this crack with professional sports is getting better every week. But anyway, tonight we have United in action in the Europa Cup semi-finals. And, you know, they're obviously, well, I won't say obviously, but they should win that one. They've 6-2 up on Roma when they go to play Roma. And then the big game there is, of course, the other semi-final second leg between Arsenal and Villarreal. And Villarreal, it's going to be played at the Emirates, and Villarreal enjoy a 1-goal lead, 2 goals to 1. But the United story, because of the match having to be postponed last week, you know, it's considered one of the biggest games in the Premier League. That game now will be played this night weekend. It means that between here and next Thursday, Manchester United in 7 days will play 4 matches. Tonight's game, as we mentioned already, then on Sunday they play Aston Villa, on Tuesday they play Leicester, and then on Thursday they play Liverpool. None of these games are really, well, the one tonight is all that important because United probably will end up in second place. The Champions League, for those who've been following that, like the 2 semi-finals were completed, the second legs, and means that we're going to have the 5th All-English final on the 29th of May, I think it is. And for those who are interested in these kind of useless statistics, even though it is an All-English final between Chelsea, who've been in the final 3 times in the past, and Manchester City, who've this will be their first final. They reckon there'll be about 7, at most 8 English-born players playing in the starting 22. So that'll tell you, as if you didn't know that already. But anyway, this weekend in the Premier League, by the way, on Saturday, Manchester City play Chelsea. Liverpool take on Southampton, and our Leeds friends, we have to mention them as they take on Spurs. I'm not too sure how many of you are following the championship, but the top of it is more or less sorted out in terms of who's going up and, you know, who's going to be in the playoffs. We'll be talking about them as, you know, nearer the time, if you like. But if you're a fan of the teams at the bottom, there are 4 clubs at the bottom, and all the championship games are played on Saturday at 12:30 at the one time. So it means that there are 4 teams, and 3 of them are going to go down. Now, I reckon Wycombe Wanderers, who are on 40 points, but they have a poor, their scoring difference means that they'll probably definitely be relegated. But the other teams, Derby, Rotherham United and Sheffield Wednesday, 2 out of those 3, I don't know whether any of you support them or not, maybe you do, but the big game is between Derby and Sheffield Wednesday. So it'll be interesting. You know, like usually the relegation battles at this time of year are probably far more interesting than anything that happens at the top end of the league. In League of Ireland, well, the 2 Cork clubs, oh my God, things aren't going well for them. Cork City and Cove Ramblers. Cork, they're both playing on Friday night at 7:45. Cork City welcome Wexford FC to Turner's Cross, and Wexford add the team at the bottom without any point whatsoever. So if Cork City don't win this one, I think they're in real serious trouble. But obviously, I think they have a great chance of you know, getting all 3 points here. It's a bigger story for Cove Ramblers. They travel to Cabinteely, who've been, you know, a successful enough side mid-table. So 2 big games for them. In rugby, well, I don't know how many of you are fans of this Lions operation, but anyway, earlier on the team was announced, and it's the lowest Irish representation, I think, since 2001. On that occasion, there was 6 Irish players selected. So 20 years later, the number has risen a little bit to 8. But, you know, I suppose it's the reflection of where Irish rugby stands. But the players that go in there are the players that have been selected. There are 2 Munster players, Tyburn and Conor Murray. The big story, of course, is that Johnny Sexton, James Ryan didn't make the cut. Bundy Aki did from Connacht, Ian Henderson from Ulster, and the other teams that were, the other players that got in there, as expected, Robbie Hinshaw and Jack Conan from Leinster, and Tyke Furlong, the man with West Cork connections, and Andrew Porter. They're the players that have been selected. So I think they play Japan in a friendly around the 26th of June, and then they go off to South Africa for an 8-game odyssey. No, nobody ever remembers who wins these matches. They're basically an opportunity for players to earn a few bob, and people do get excited every now and then about it. So anyway, they were announced, the 37-man squad, 8, as I said, 8 Irish players in it. Nearer home in terms of rugby, on this Friday night, in the latest edition of the Pro 12, Pro 14, Rainbow Cup, call it what you will, Ireland will, or Munster will be playing Ulster, and you know, both of them could do with a win, if you want to put it like that. And of course, after Leinster's debacle last week, where they were beaten by a far stronger La Rochelle outfit, which cost a fortune of money to put together, despite the fact that they're not the most expensive squad in France, it just shows again where you know, things have gone in terms of professional rugby. An interesting thing I should have mentioned earlier on about the vaccines, that Pfizer-BioNTech have agreed to vaccinate all the accredited athletes that would be selected to go to the Olympics and the Paralympics in Tokyo, and not alone the athletes but the sports staff. And that has caused some on social media to have a cut again, that this is all wrong. But anyway, it is happening. I don't think that anybody's going to take too much notice of this. There's you know, it's not a huge number of athletes or anything like that. Also, I think there will be a lot of disappointment in the equestrian world about the cancellation of the Dublin Horse Show. And I don't know how many of you follow show jumping, but I do know that there are a number of people from this county, this is their highlight of their year, their social calendar, and some of them I know are absolutely devastated from an equestrian point of view, but just as importantly from their big social event has been cancelled again. So finally to golf, and whereas Rory McIlroy has been, I suppose, speaking out against this proposed, I suppose you call it tour, that the I think Saudi Arabia are talking about organising this, where they're hoping to take all the top players, guaranteeing them absolutely savage money. Whether it happens or not remains to be seen. But anyway, it's not for Rory McIlroy. But nearer home, we're going to have a big interest in the Walker Cup. And for those of you who do or you don't, the Walker Cup is a biennial event that's played between, it's for amateurs. It's a team made up of Great Britain and Ireland, and they take on the USA, and it takes place this Saturday or Sunday in a place called Seminole in Florida. And of the 10 golfers, 2 of them are Irishmen. I think the rest are English, no Scottish or no Welsh as far as I know, but the 2 Irish players, you have Mark Power from Kilkenny. His mother was Rose McDade from Skibbereen, who was an accomplished golfer herself. But John Murphy flies the Cork flag big time. He became the 5th Cork player to play in this. This is the most prestigious event for an amateur golfer, and it's a huge credit to him, to his club in Kinsale that do great work at promoting golf at underage level, if you like, and of course for his family, who have been massive supporters of him. And there are going to be supporters there, but obviously none from Ireland, so we'll have to watch that over the weekend. And, you know, I think this is going to be the last time that we'll see John playing as an amateur. I would imagine that he's to turn professional. Who knows, maybe in 10 years' time he might be like Shane Lowry and invest in Cork GA. And there's a lot of GA in this guy. His father was Old Murphy, who played actually with Valley Rovers. John himself played with Kinsale, and he's related to that line of Murphys that come from Bear Island, including probably the best known of them, Dr. Con Murphy. So anyway, we wish John the very best of luck on that one. And, hopefully, by the way, that the Great Britain Ireland team, they're not the most successful in terms of, to date. America lead the series 37, I think, to 9 and this is the 49th playing of the event. So if you get a chance, you might tune in and watch that one. So until we see you again, take care and mind yourself, and thanks for tuning your way.